Hey everyone, a bit of a controversial topic today. The return of Pochettino. Lots have been said online around whether fans should boo or cheer or politely clap or whatever we should do. And there's lots of debate around it, and lots of people got lots of different opinions. And as I've said so many times, it's all about opinions, right? It's all about how you personally feel, how I personally feel about the situation, right? So, personally, I'm all for booing. I did a video at the time when Pochettino signed for Chelsea, and my opinion hasn't changed. I felt, and I still feel, that it was a bad move from his point of view. I felt that it was disrespectful and a bit of a dagger to the heart, right? And that's overplaying it, right? But the reason why I say that is because I am a Tottenham fan. So I don't care about anybody else. I'm not interested in anybody else. I care about how I feel about the club, and I want my managers, my players, and my other supporters to feel the same way I do, in the fact that I am passionate about Spurs, and that means everything. And loyalty to the club means everything. Now, I'm a realist. I live in a real world. I understand that that's not really the case, is it? That's not really what players and managers and owners and stuff like that do, right? It's a business, it's a job, it's that kind of thing, right? So the loyalty only goes so far. But we see it all the time with lots of players. Even Gareth Bale recently, he was asked, would you have ever signed for Arsenal? And he went, absolutely not. You know, and that it kind of goes without saying. And Arsenal players would say the same, right? They would never come and sign for us. You know, it's only the rare ones that support that team that would actually come to us, but they wouldn't necessarily leave that club to come to Tottenham, and vice versa, apart from the obvious exception. But I guess that's more about Arsenal, isn't it? I guess is what a lot of people will say. And for me, yeah, they're the enemy. They are the scum and all the rest of it, and vice versa. The problem with the Chelsea scenario, and people kind of pull parallels around Hoddle or Jimmy Greaves playing for them, for instance, Mickey Hazard, you know, lots of Tottenham players have played for Chelsea. The thing I think you really have to understand, and I guess a lot of it depends upon your mentality and your age and that kind of thing. For me, Chelsea were always a low club that we had no real rivalry with. Mainly, any rivalry was off the pitch, if you get my meaning, and are of a certain age, you will know all about that. So there's always been a rivalry from that perspective. But in terms of football, it was never really seen as a rival because they were a poor team. They didn't really win anything. They wasn't really up there all the time and all the rest of it. And I'm going back years, right? So I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them as a club. But, you know, there were times when, you know, they were going nowhere, they were going out of business, you know, and all that kind of stuff, right? So we never really saw them as a direct rival. With Arsenal, it's a direct rival because of location. With Chelsea, they're just, you know, another London team. And you kind of look at them at the same way maybe that you would look at, I don't know, Fulham or whatever. There is a rivalry because it's London, but it's not a real staunch rivalry. The rivalry with Chelsea is one that Chelsea really created by looking upon us as their main rivals. And the reason why I say that is you don't get this hatred between Arsenal and Chelsea. You don't really get that. So I don't really, you know, that they can't just say, oh yeah, it's because we're a London club and all the rest of it. It isn't. There is a real rivalry created by the Chelsea fans and the Chelsea hierarchy overall to have this rival, because obviously Fulham have been a yo-yo club, so they're not always around. They used to have a real rivalry with West Ham at one time. I'm not sure how that's kind of panned out now. There doesn't seem to be as much a rivalry between them. I might be wrong. I don't watch West Ham. I don't go to West Ham games. I don't know what their fans think of Chelsea or Chelsea fans think of West Ham. But for me, it feels like their biggest hatred is kept for us. And I'm okay with that, by the way. I've got no problem with it. So this is a kind of a new rivalry, and it got worse and worse and worse as they got better and better and better and won more and more trophies. Obviously, you're then looking at them as a big rival because you want to be better than them, and you know you're not better than them, or we haven't been able to be better than them over these years. And so Pochettino himself said that Chelsea was a bigger rival than maybe Arsenal, but he would never go to Arsenal. But then he says he'd go to Chelsea. And for me, I just think it's a really disrespectful thing. It's something I wouldn't want any of my managers to go to that club. And they can talk about Chelsea managers coming to Tottenham. I didn't want them either. You know, I didn't want AVB. I really didn't want Jose Mourinho, although I thought, you know, maybe it could work out. Conte, I was a bit excited about because I thought, well, you know, he is, you know, a step up from Mourinho. Clearly he wasn't, but that's how it felt at the time. But ultimately, that's coming the other way, so whatever. But that doesn't mean I want my managers going to them. So I really don't want it. I'm really unhappy about it. I really felt that it was the wrong thing for him to do, to go there, and that really got up my nose. And I'm not going to hide that fact. So I understand people going, you know, he did a lot for us. He took us to Champions League final and all the rest of it. And listen, when he's left there, after he inevitably gets the sack, I'll go back to liking Pochettino. And I don't dislike him as a person. I dislike what he's doing. I dislike the fact that he's gone there. Once he's left there, it's all good. It's over. It's finished. That rivalry's gone. But when he comes to White Hart Lane, and he's wearing that Chelsea emblem on his chest, and he's cheering on those players, and he's applauding those fans. For me, I'm not interested. You know, I hate you for it, because they're of that rivalry that's been created, that's built up over these years. And again, I come back to the point with Hazard and Hoddle and people like that. You have to remember that was at a time when they wasn't a direct rival. You know, Hoddle was arguably the guy who really started to bring their renaissance. He brought in some top class players. They then started winning staff and attracted Abramovich, who then took them to all those new levels, right? So, but Hoddle was there before that happened, and he brought them somewhere, right? But this is when Hoddle came from like Swindon and places like that as a manager. So, and it wasn't seen as such a bad deal. So you can't kind of measure what Pochettino's done against what Hoddle did, or Greaves, or any of those others. It was the way it was back then. You know, players would go from club to club. They wouldn't go from Tottenham to Arsenal and Arsenal to Tottenham, but between those clubs they do. And like now, you still see Chelsea players go to Arsenal, they go to West Ham, they go to, you know, Fulham, and they all share them all around and all the rest of it. And we always used to take players mainly from West Ham out of all of them. And that's probably why there is a big hatred from a West Ham's point of view, because they all need to have a rival. Every club needs a rival, otherwise there's no point. But then when your rivals, like West Ham's big rival was always Millwall. But if Millwall and West Ham have never really been in the same league, then that's not a great rival. You can't really do anything with it. Same with Chelsea and Fulham. So they have to look at other reasons to have a rival. And that's where it is. So listen, in my opinion, it's up to you what you do at the ground. If you want to clap Pochettino, then I've got no problem with that. That's your choice. But for me, the fact is, he would have known we were singing his name. We were calling for him to come back. We wanted him back. You know, a large majority of fans wanted him to come back. The club didn't want him. Okay, they didn't want him. And that's Daniel Levy's thing. And I've got no time for Daniel Levy either. I'm not sticking up for him. But their decision was that they weren't going to have Pochettino back. He didn't get the call. So I blame them for that. That was their fault. They could have brought him back and maybe it would have worked out. Maybe it would have ended up in the same situation that Chelsea are in now, where it's not working for them. So maybe we got the better deal. It feels like it. Feels like it. I'm happy with Ange. At this moment in time, I would take Ange Postecoglou over Pochettino any day of the week. But we weren't to know that at the time. So, and it doesn't change the fact that I find what he's doing and what he's done as disrespectful to the fans, not necessarily to the club, but to the fans who were calling his name and calling for him. So listen, ultimately, like I said at the beginning, this is about your opinion, and I'm just giving mine. This is just how I feel. You don't have to feel the same way as me. You can go about your daily business and think, what a dickhead. I think he's a fool. And I've got no problem with that. That's absolutely fine. I don't do this to try to get everybody to agree with me. I say how I feel about it. I say what I think about it. And if you agree with me, that's great. If you don't agree with me, I'm happy to accept your view, for what it is. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. I just go along with it. I'm not like other YouTubers who I can mention who block you or call you, horrible names because you've got a different view for them, or block you or whatever. I don't do any of that. I'm not really bothered. I just give you my opinion. So for me, it's a Judas move. Didn't want him to go there. It may be working out for the best, and maybe he can do enough to get them absolutely nowhere and run the club down into the ground, and that's absolutely fine. For me, Arsenal will always be the big rivals, but Chelsea are up there because this rivalry that's come about over the last sort of 20 years. And so I'm happy to have that rivalry with them. They hate us, so we hate them. That's the way it goes. That's football, I guess. But I won't be clapping him. I won't be cheering him. I'll be happily booing, and that's that. And I might be childish. I might be stupid. I might be petty. My wife certainly thinks I am. But that's how I feel. So it is what it is. But listen, it's up to you what you think, and I'll let you tell me how you feel in the comments section, and we'll go from there. But as far as I'm concerned, all I'm looking at now is a big win for us against them, and I'll be over the moon. And then we can sing He's Magic once we know that we've got the points and you're going home with your tail between your legs. Fingers crossed. Up the Spurs.